March is coming to an end and a breath of spring is about. We are still stationed at Kharkiv, but a regrouping as well as a reorganization of the regiment are on the agenda. New company commanders arrive and crews for replacements are coming to the front. Since we've made ourselves quite comfortable here, this is not too bad a place on the Eastern Front. Nevertheless, the situation is still serious. The Russians keep pressing again and again, and apparently he is intent on retaking the city by all means. He is seeking out weak spots in the defensive, but always receives a bloody nose. We are still the fire brigade of the infantry. We've become used to this by now and we work well together with the infantry soldiers. Every other day we are called upon to repel the opponent or to close off a breakthrough. There our Isolde has quite a thick skin and we are able to really make a difference with our stubby cannon. But not everything is always happy sunshine. Tanks are hit, dear comrades are wounded or die. A few days ago, several platoon leaders were standing together and deliberating further operations. A lucky shot of the Russians let a shell go down right amongst their men. 4 dead and 3 severely wounded was the toll. We won't be able to afford this for long. Good operational officers and old master sergeants with months of Eastern Front experience are a scarcity. The artillery barrages of Ivan are always bad and costs a lot of blood. The Air Force keeps bombing one position after another to pieces, but they seem to be sprouting like weeds out of the ground new. Lonat and I are by now pretty close. Almost every other day we meet up and talk about this and that. Our frontline stage theater, the tank high explosive round, is well attended and always worth a visit, especially with a bottle of wine or sometimes 2. Lonat, his first name is Ferdinand, is a master of organization. Once again, he has a mission and asks whether I'd like to accompany him. Of course, that will work. I report to my commander as absent on supply run. By motorcycle, we are off through Kharkiv and into the rear area to the shooting gallery, as Ferdi always calls it. But of course, it is the heavy artillery guns which are located behind the front line. We are supposed to pick up something for the captain. That's a good opportunity for Lonat to organize a little something on the way. 10 kilometers over roadways we have to go to the artillery pieces. We have to cross a large wooden bridge. The military policemen there check us. That's all good, so no one else is able to sneak through there. When we reach our destination, we are welcomed happily. Ferdi walks over to the field office and asks an old non-commissioned officer to show me the long ones. I receive a guided tour to the gun emplacements and get an explanation of the heavy field howitzers. The gunners here don't have too bad a life. Far behind the front lines, the supply situation is always good. 2 hours later, we are also getting supplied well. There's lentil soup with a lot of meat in it. I can take that. In the early afternoon, we make our way back. Ferdi puts down the throttle on the bike. The wind is blowing around one's nose. It can't be any better. We are rushing toward the bridge again. Ferdi slows down since the bridge can only be passed by one vehicle at a time. As we are on top of it, a field car comes shooting up from straight ahead and seems to not see us. The military policemen are excitedly flailing their arms. Apparently, that crock didn't stop there either. It's gonna be tight. We try to get their attention. In the last second, the driver finally notices us and slams on the brake. But too late. We bust through the barrier in the last third of the bridge and crash down into the embankment. I'm flung out of the sidecar and land hard in the thick, thorny bush, which scratches up my face. Slightly dazed, I dig myself out of the thicket and look for Ferdi. The bike is upside down in the creek and it's smoking. Amongst the rock, Leonard is lying there. His eyes fixed to the sky, his gaze fixed straight ahead. Staggering, I climb down to him and check his pulse. Nothing. I yell at him to wake up. Blood is running out of his skull. Now I realize there's nothing else to do. Ferdi is dead. Grief overcomes me. Tears come to my eyes. I collapse on the top of the rocks. As I take the hands from my face, they are full of blood. That must be my own. It doesn't matter. Ferdi is dead. I hear the shouts from the military policemen who are standing on top of the bridge. One climbs down to help me. I scream at him if he has seen this mess. That bastard in the field car. He's got Leonard on his consigns. Tears run down on me, and like in the bus, I climb up the river embankment. My uniform is dirty, and the sleeve ripped open. Blood is running down my face. I taste it in my mouth. When I reach the top, a military policeman wants to take care of me. I push him aside and rush toward the field car, which is still sitting on the bridge. A lieutenant and a non-commissioned officer are still by the car. I gesticulate and scream at both of them who had been driving. When I get closer, the non-commissioned officer protectively steps in front of his lieutenant and states that it had been an accident. I won't keep quiet. The lieutenant looks at me with glassy eyes and steadies himself against the car. Now I can smell alcohol on the non-commissioned officer. They are drunk, these dirtbags. The military policemen intervene and are trying to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. Again, I ask loudly who had been driving. The lieutenant snaps at me. I should first stand at attention. He had been driving and wasn't guilty of anything. The non-commissioned officer keeps holding me back. The military policemen are trying to calm me down. I get a hold of myself, but this is going to have an aftermath. Shortly thereafter, I appear to have settled down and turn away from the lieutenant. Then I happen to hear, as he is telling me that these tank men should better not ride a motorcycle. That's not something they know how to do. I blow my lid. I turn around and try to grab the lieutenant. I can't quite get him, but in the shuffle, the drunken lieutenant hits the ground. Everybody looks at me stunned. The military policemen finally have me in a choke hold. Assaulting an officer, that was not a good idea. The military policemen drag me to a small shack and lock me into a room with a table and a chair. Here, I am to wait and have time to think about everything. What a mess. Ferdi is dead because that shithead drove drunk. That's not fair. An old sergeant of the military police comes to me and brings me coffee and cigarettes. He sits down and makes a flask appear from inside his coat. A strong swig, but that doesn't really help either. He can understand me quite well, and he knows that the lieutenant screwed up. However, I could only hope that this wouldn't have an aftermath for myself. What I had done could get me into hell of trouble. I can't help it. It was worth it to me. What could happen to me? Back to the front? That's laughable. A short time later, my captain is standing in front of me. He wants to pick up Leonard and take me into detention at the regiment. I report to him and can't help but to express my anger over the situation in my statement. He doesn't say much. He only looks at my face pensively. He has a medic called, thus I'm cared for with bandages and a head dressing. Later we load Leonard onto the truck. The damaged bike still remains with the military policeman. Quietly, it's going back to the regiment. I'm well aware that I will receive a punishment, but I hope the lieutenant will get punished even more. I want to talk to the captain, but he indicates to me that I should shut up. He's also grieving over Leonard. The two had been together since France. Certainly, this isn't easy for him either. Even he's the captain and the other a corporal. Camaraderie builds bridges beyond military ranks. Having arrived at Kharkiv, I am to report to my commander. I'm supposed to be interrogated in the matter at military staff at 6 p.m. The news spread like wildfire. My master sergeant can understand that I had lost it. But to assault an officer, that's not good. I don't even know whether I got a hold of the bastard. I believe he simply fell over cause he was drunk. A lieutenant quizzes me thoroughly. Private Schmidt, Leonard's right-hand man in the office, records what I have to tell. Smoking, the captain stands in the corner and looks outside. Apparently, the crash driver is someone with connections to Berlin. Therefore, they won't put the blame for the accident on him. It doesn't matter to me. I reiterate everything as it happened, no ifs and buts. When it's getting dark, the captain wants to dismiss me. Surprised, I ask him whether I didn't have to go back to detention. He shakes his head, but then remarks I should wait. Out of his desk, he pulls a bottle of French cognac. He sets it on the table and thoughtfully looked at the bottle. Leonard and I wanted to empty this when the war here in Russia was over, he remarks with a sick in his voice. For Ferdi, the war is over. Therefore, we are going to drink up the bottle. Later, I'm lying down in my quarters. Blood is rushing through my head. The injuries aren't noticeable any longer. Alcohol would do that. But the pain deep inside, only sleep can comfort that.